Yeah, exactly. And I'm left today, Alex, hanging my head, feeling now, how do I defend America when I'm abroad? Because, I live in a foreign country half the year now. How can I defend America when we've tortured people now? And it's not just Guantanamo. We tortured them in Iraq. And think of this for a moment. We're the invaders. We invaded Iraq. And then we torture people after we invade. I will never forgive George Bush and Dick Cheney for what they've done to my country.
Well, I certainly share those views, Governor Ventura.
You asked me what the negatives were. There you got it. Now, you want the positives?
Yes, we're about to break, but I do want to hear the positives when we get back because I really want to get your perspective on things and talk about your book, Don't Start the Revolution Without Me, now in paperback. I was reading that's doing quite well.
Yeah, it's doing very good. I'm very happy with it. I look forward to it being out there.
Absolutely. Former Minnesota governor, best-selling author, many times over, Jesse Ventura, and, of course, you all know him from The Running Man and Predator and many other great films. Two of my favorite films there with Ventura going, I've been killing guys for years without all this crap. We'll be right back. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up in the next segment, I'm going to open the phones up for Jesse Ventura at 1-800-259-9231 because listeners can always bring up questions and angles and ideas that I would have never thought to ask great guests like Mr. Ventura, former governor of Minnesota, new book out in paperback, Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. But Jesse, what's positive that you see in the world going on right now?
I see us communicating, and I give kudos to President Obama for that, because we should always talk with anyone before going to war with them. People don't realize that war should be the last option. War is the result of failed diplomacy. It's a result of failed politics, and it should be always left as the last resort. And it seems we've gotten into a mode now that it's become the first resort. And I'm not saying we shouldn't defend ourselves. Of course we should. But we should always be available to talk and communicate. I love the fact that there's a realm of communication going on now as rough as it is between Washington and Cuba. If you didn't hear, Alex, I came out and said that I would love to be named the ambassador to Cuba, the first one, if we get to the point where we can get to that level of communication. I've been to Cuba. It's a beautiful place. And we boycott it. We embargo it. And all we're doing is hurting the Cuban people. We're sitting here waiting for Castro to be overthrown by his country. It's not going to happen. I got news for you. Castro's going to die an old man. And we're wasting all this time. Let me put it in the connotation like this, Alex. That policy in Cuba is like a football game. You come in with a game plan. If you get to the fourth quarter and you haven't scored yet, don't you think it's time you reevaluate your game plan?
Absolutely. It's been almost 50 years since the embargo, hasn't it?
Yes, and it's ridiculous. I was down there. Cuban people have to import milk from New Zealand. Now, we got milk right here in Minnesota. We could send right down the river to them in the Mississippi and right across the Gulf. It's a win-win situation. Why do they stand in the way of a win-win situation?
Well, I'm no fan of the corrupt government they had before Fidel, but it certainly was very corrupt after. The issue is, and most sociologists and historians agree, the embargo helped Fidel Castro. If we had all been friends and nice and opened it up and kept all the hotels and casinos there, he would have gotten thrown out very quickly. The fact that the West was antagonistic allowed the Soviets to fill that vacuum and allowed things to deteriorate to the point they are now.
Well, and the point of the matter is, the Cuban people, I've met them, they're a very proud people, and they're not going to be dictated to by us. If they want Castro gone, they will do it, and they don't need us prompting them to do it or us to do all the stuff behind the scenes. People need to realize, way back in the 60s, we were practicing terrorism on Cuba. We were blowing up ships in their bay. We were attempting to assassinate their leaders. We were doing all these acts of terrorism, but we one of the things that irks me, I sit outside the country and watch the U.S. now, and Alex, our ego is unbelievable. We can never admit we're wrong, and it's like our way or the highway. And I just don't think in the world today you can live that way.
Well, I agree with you, Jesse Ventura. My issue, as we get ready to go to break here in a few minutes, I want to go ahead and start asking this question now. When you were down here in Austin back in October, you made the point that Obama was already fudging, that Obama was already going back from saying, day one, I bring in the troops, to 16 months, 21 months, now 50,000 indefinitely. And I know, as bad as Bush and Cheney were, you want to give him benefit of the doubt. But what I'm seeing is slick deception. He says he wants détente with Iran, but increases covert operations. And I have that mainstream news today. He says, I want to talk to other countries, but actually continues the encircling of Russia and other nations. And he's moving ahead with his cyber bullying bill that if somebody says that you hurt their feelings, that then you get a federal felony for what you say.
I'm computer illiterate, so that you're going off into places into Star Trek for me, Alex.
No, I understand that, Governor, but the point is that I'm telling you, Barack Obama, going with your earlier instincts of saying he's already fudging, I'm telling you, this guy says one thing and does another.
Well, let's remember something. He's still just a Democrat. Always remember that. And there are them and the Republicans. They control the whole game, and they don't allow anyone else into the game. And so bear that in mind as to, if, like on the whole torture issue, the reason they want to move on is because they're both caught. And so even if the Democrats didn't order the torture, they knew it was going on and they condoned it, which is just as bad.
Yeah, let's finish up.
That's why they want to move on. I know you got to go to break. I hear the music.
Yeah, let's finish up with torture when we come back, then take phone calls, get into a host of other issues with Governor Jesse Ventura.